Greetings! I am Grasscat, and I'm here to answer a simply asked question. What the heck is Where Winds Meet? Well, it's a third-person action RPG set in a fictional Chinese Wuxia setting. It's kind of neat, actually. We need more of these. We've gotten several of Wuxia settings in recent years, but I still say that we need more. As usual, I'll start off by going over the options menu, then we'll move into taking a look at some gameplay. Talk about microtransactions because this is a free-to-play title, so you better believe they're here. Then we'll wrap everything up. Now, quick couple of notes before we dig into this. First and foremost, I want to stress that this is a first impressions video, not a review. I've got about 15-ish hours into the game, which is nowhere near enough to be able to say I know everything there is about this game. I don't. But I do know enough to be able to give you my first thoughts and impressions on it, which is the point of the video. Second, I realize that there are some people on the planet that are deathly allergic to two letters, A and I, and it's definitely present here. Now, I do urge you to watch the video and make your own judgments when I cover the sections where AI is used in the game. As best as I can tell, it was not used in development to replace creative work. Rather, it's one of the rare instances in which I can look at this and say, yes, this is an actual good use of generative AI because it's trying to enhance the creative process, not replace it. Although that gets a little gray in one area, we'll talk about it. So, I realize that some people, AI is just a hard no, and if that's the case, thank you for watching the video up until this point. Alright, options menu. Let's take a look, where is it? Options? Yeah, for some reason, in a very interesting design choice, you can't access the settings until you actually load into the game. I mean, there's no law or anything that says you need to have the options menu at the main menu. It's just an interesting choice. And, yep, here it is. Even though you can play this game pretty much solo, you can't really escape the fact that it's a free-to-play online game. We'll come back to this, because we have more interesting things to talk about. Option menus. Alright, this is actually a pretty good option menu setup. Some things are repeated a little bit, but overall this is quite excellent. So here we have keyboard and mouse, and the controller settings. Now for both of these, let me change keyboard back to standard layout. For both keyboard and controller, you'll get this nice little button layout showing what the default mappings are. Which I really like. That makes it, there's no question whatsoever as to what button does what, especially for the controller layout. And if you change the default layout settings, it will show it there. Obviously, if you do custom layouts, these aren't going to update correctly. But still, I like the fact that they have those diagrams there. And if you have a custom layout, it just says, okay, yeah, here's all the keybinds that you have actually set. Interestingly enough, it won't show the alternates. For example, I have my heavy attack and charge skill bound to one of my extended buttons on my G-Force. Button 5, I believe. I had to look at the mouse real quick. And it's not showing here, but obviously if I go into my modified settings and look at combat, there we go, we can see that it's bound to a side button. I like the fact that it's got everything nice and separated out, so it's not just one big massive list. Overall, pretty good customization options. Going into the game menu, one of the things I really like about this game is it gives you a lot of ability to choose how do you want to play it. So for the solo mode, and only for the solo mode, you can choose your combat difficulty. Do you want story, recommended, expert, which has a series of its own set of options that gets enabled and disabled, and you can then further customize it if you want. The only confusing thing, or the only, I guess, complaint point that I have is legend difficulty. If I try to select it, it tells me it can only be chosen at initial character creation. Okay, that's fine, but if there's a way to delete my character, I haven't figured it out yet. Which, I don't know, that's just kind of an odd decision to have that. Maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe there is an easy way to delete your character and I'm just being blind, but I can't see it. And hardcore, which isn't in yet, obviously has to be chosen at character creation. So I'm not really sure what the plan is once they enable this option. So it's a bit perplexing on that. Otherwise, for the rest of this, pretty decent options. I do like the guidance mode. They let you determine how detailed you want things. And this is one of those overlap areas. We'll see more details on this a little bit later. Looking in on camera, we've got pretty good camera options. Being able to control sensitivity on both the controller and keyboard and mouse, and inverting controls if you want. Very good, very good. Moving on to display. This is one of those areas where I'm like, I think you could have done this a bit better. Because for each of the visual styles, when you change it, it changes the picture. So it's like, okay, I've got intense versus 16 notes, but what does that mean? So if I switch back to game view here, this is 16 notes. Change over to intense. I mean, yeah, I can tell there's a little bit of a difference, but it's really hard to tell, for me at least, what exactly that difference is. So they could have handled this a little bit better. I also really like that they have a motion sickness reduction option here. I don't suffer from motion sickness, so I can't say whether or not these are good options. But I do like the fact that they have this button, and if you click it, it says, hey, these are the things that we are going to do to help you deal with motion sickness. So kudos on them for that. Select a monitor. I can choose which device my game is being ran to. Thank you very much. But oddly enough, there is no colorblind mode option here. This is not acceptable. Shaders to compensate for color blindness have been a solved issue for like decades. Well, maybe not decades, but at least a decade now. 10 plus years we've had this problem solved in game development. So there's really no excuse for a full-on studio to not have color blindness modes. So they really need to add that in. Beyond that, fairly standard settings here. I can mostly run the game on ultra settings. I did have to lower down tessellation a little bit and view distance a little bit. But otherwise, the game runs pretty smooth, as we'll see here in a bit. Audio settings, fairly standard. Master, sound effect, music, volume. Whether or not you want your game playing audio, if you've alt-tabbed out of it. Do you want skill barks whenever you use your skills? And ambient volume. Do you want the ambient sound coming through? It's like, I do like the fact you've got that extra setting there. There is voice chat for multiplayer. There is voice chat in the game for the multiplayer areas. I am not in the habit of engaging with voice chat with random people on the internet, so I cannot say how well these options look, but just at a glance, they look like they're pretty decent options. Language. Now, this is an interesting one. Of course, you have your text language. Not too many options here, but decent enough. Hopefully, you can find something that works. Game voice, English or Chinese? And I'll be perfectly honest, I have not listened to the English audio. I actually know some Chinese, so anytime a game gives me the option of having Chinese voiceovers, I choose that option. And even if you don't understand Chinese, I would recommend selecting this because there are more Chinese options than there are English, or more Chinese voice lines, I should say, than there are English. As a very quick test, I did switch my language over once for a conversation that I knew had voiceover. Not everything does. And there was no voiceover for English voice, but there was voiceover for Chinese. And honestly, the Chinese voice actors are very good and adds to the immersion of the setting, in my opinion. Target language for translation? I'm honestly not sure what this does. I have it set to follow client, which of course is going to translate things into English, but beyond that, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. I just haven't noticed anything on this one. And then we got this odd little other tab, and there are, again, a few overlaps with game settings. I do like that you have these additional security settings that you can enable or disable. In case your account gets compromised, you can have a second layer here to protect your character and your account information. Or if for some reason you wanted to share your account with someone, you can lock them out from changing anything too important. Interface settings. I do like that they give you the option for the map info between whether you want detailed, combat-focused, or free exploration, with a good explanation over here of those options. I like leaving mine in free exploration to just make it a bit more fun to find stuff. But of course, mileage will vary on this. And then lots of other sort of standard options you would expect from a multiplayer game, most of which we are not going to see in action because I will be doing this impressions in the solo play and not in multiplayer, except for a few small parts to show the multiplayer. Quick note on signpost settings. I would strongly recommend turning off other player signposts. I don't know why it's closed instead of disable, but at least they're consistent with that labeling there. There's no restrictions on this, or very little restrictions, if there are any, on where these are placed. And I actually encountered a scenario where I missed a lootable body that was important for progression because there were so many other signposts in the way. And this isn't Dark Souls where you get to put together a phrase from bits and pieces of, words. This is just type in whatever you want. In the few signposts that I have read, no, you're not really missing much of anything if you have this turned off. All right, that is enough jabbering on about option settings. Let's take a look at the game. All right, so here we are. Fairly standard controls. WSAD to move around, mouse look, space to jump. Got a nice little triple jump, and you can even do a nice little ground pound too, as long as you've got the stamina for it. Things that are interactable will usually have some form of light, although sometimes it can cause some confusion, like it looks like you might be able to interact with that, but you can't. But yeah, this pebble over here I can pick up for crafting. And if you're ever unsure about what can or cannot be interacted with, fairly early on in the game you do get this wind view mode, which will highlight enemies and other various interactables that you can grab. Alright, well, let's take a look at combat. I can tell these guys are enemies, well, besides the fact they show up yellow. They've got health bars and level numbers above them. That means they can be killed. They're also very, very blind. Very blind. But that's okay. This is not a stealth game. Now, I have the assist turned off, which does make combat a little bit more interesting, as I completely failed to do any form of blocking. There we go. And it has a Sekiro-like system where once you get their endurance down a certain amount, you can do an execution move and do lots of damage to them. It won't necessarily auto-kill people, but it's a fun little thing just to include to try and whittle down that bar to get the special attack in. Now, to show what it looks like with the assist on, because we've got another nice little bandit camp down there that'll provide some entertainment. If I enabled assist deflection, this is what combat is now going to look like. Oh, nope, you are not a combat encounter. I thought you were. Well, we'll find another combat encounter eventually and get to see that in action. Aha! There we go. What is this glowy thing? Yeah, a chest I haven't found yet. Alright, so let's take a look at combat with assist on. There we go. You see that E that just popped up? Now, you can't just completely rely upon that because you only get 2 charges that replenish slowly over time, but it's really easy to use them up quickly. So like right now, I am out of charge, so I will not get the prompt. No prompt. I can still do it on my own if I don't suck. And now that my prompt has regenerated, I got it back. Now, in multiplayer, you do not get that for obvious reasons. It would be absolutely horrible to try to play multiplayer if the game constantly paused when everybody else got those little prompts. But for single player, you do have that option to give you just that little bit of assist. Now, there's plenty of activities just to be had in the open world. And it's a pretty well-designed open world, in my opinion. For example, you've got these cats. I love these cats. So you got a puzzle cat here. Look at him all dressed up. Gather the number of will-o-wisps. Okay, so it's a race. And yes, it's a Wuxia game, so of course you can run up walls. There we go. And then I've got this thing here. It's like, oh, well, if I have the right skill equipped, which I do. Gather some red mist beetles. Now you can just continue running around. Now you do have to be careful. There is fall damage of a sort. Just sort of to illustrate that. Well, you can also get killed, apparently. That's the first time I've managed to kill myself. You do take equipment durability damage, which has not been a particularly large problem so far. But it is also possible to injure yourself, which requires a little bit of treatment from the clinic. So what are some other things that you will be commonly doing? Well, you've got these little dungeons. Now, I've not done this one yet, so I just kind of left this to do while I am talking about the gameplay. Oh, and where are you? Oh, nope, that's a different kind of puzzle. So if I follow these little guys, they'll light something up. Now, nothing that you're seeing here is anything particularly new, noteworthy in the gaming space. Like, this is all stuff that we've seen before. The appeal here is not going to be the freshness of the gameplay, but rather the smoothness of the gameplay combined with the setting. In the 15 hours that I have been playing this, there has only been one instance in which I got somewhat annoyed at the controls, and it's because the camera bugged out in an interior space when I was fighting multiple opponents, and I got boxed in and killed. It's like been the singular point of annoyance I've had with the game. Otherwise, the controls have been smooth. The gameplay has been without bugs. Story has been interesting, but admittedly, I am somewhat inclined to like these types of stories. And so it does appeal to my interests naturally. But even if it, you've not done something like this before, I still think it is a good game to play. You got this nice little slow-mo mode. You got your bow out. Crafting is somewhat important because that's how you auto-heal damage after an encounter. And let me stop getting distracted and actually go do the thing that I was wanting to do. So I was able to track my location. Okay. We'll deal with the online stuff in a moment. Now, where was I? Right, gameplay. Like I said, nothing new, but it's very smooth. I haven't really found too many friction points in this game. So let's start this quest.
是你啊？你也来湖边有事？
没有，就是看见天叔你了。哎，天叔今日来丹崖赏湖。
劳碌命哪有什么闲心赏湖？只是湖里有钱等着我挣。
荒郊野湖哪来的钱？天叔你诓我也不找个好点的理由。
我可没诓你啊。不过他们这些江湖高手，事情总是特别多，情况稍微有点麻烦。帮我个忙。
什么忙？
根据这些线索，帮我想想怎么下去。
One thing you can do is press R to bring up that sort of like summary window to speed things up if you don't really want to wait for all the voice acting. Like I said, I like the Chinese voice acting. I would actually recommend that you listen to the Chinese voice acting, at least give it a try.
这似乎就是信中所说的湖中钱，是机关。
Pick up a chest. Probably should surface. And again, it's not going to give you too much guidance. Again, you can modify how much guidance it gives you. It's just telling me activate the contraptions. It's not going to light up the path to the contraptions. I can use my wind sight to see what can be interacted with. That's probably the way out, if I had to take a guess. Aha, there's a contraption-looking thing. There's one. Probably should surface for air again before I drown. That would be awfully embarrassing. Do another contraption. And then the last one. Oh wait, did I already do this one? Nope, I didn't already do this one. Apparently I picked up the treasure chest and then completely missed that there was a contraption there. And apparently we just drained a lake. And can climb cliffs really fast, apparently. And now I could continue this on and continue on with the puzzle dungeon. I say puzzle dungeon. The puzzles, again, they're nothing new. They're nothing fancy. But they are engaging. I have so far enjoyed all of the puzzles, especially the spooky one that has you trying to hide from killer ghosts. Don't want to spoil it more than that. Alright. So, what else? Well, let's progress the main story a little bit and get to a part of the game that isn't quite so smooth and nice. Well, the visuals, again, it is a pretty game. A lot of games are pretty these days, but still, worth saying, it is a pretty game. Now let's start looking at the not so pretty stuff. This game has an overwhelming amount of menus. We have the bag, which has our inventory. We can also somewhat access our inventory by going to develop and going to gear and seeing what gear we have available from that screen. Oh yeah, and the develop window also has the talent window, which has basic and boss. And then the gear has the enhance button for enhancing your gear. And then you have the abilities tab, which allows you to set your inner way and your mystic skills. And then you also have the ability to set your weapons and your weapon skills. And then you have your appearance tab, which has even more tabs. And you have your profession tab, which has even more tabs. And okay, take a deep breath. There's a lot of windows. Now, hyperbole aside, they are reasonably laid out. Like, I can figure out, okay, bag is my inventory. You know, I have gear, quick use, development items. I could guess that's like combat. This is like general items. Okay, quest and trading, currency. You know, it tells me up here too what the category is. And then I can filter it out, you know, by common, stuff related to appearance, consumables, etc. So the menus are reasonably laid out, but it can still be a little bit of a pain to know where you're supposed to go for different things. For example, the main quest line. Let's go to journal. And again, we have... Yes, I've been through all of this. I don't know why you're giving me tutorial tips. So you've got all of these options here under journal. And it does do a good job, again, of telling me there's something new here. Oh, there's a red icon here indicating there's something for me to collect. You know, under world, again, it's showing me that there's new things that I can do. So it doesn't, you know, it's not bad per se. It can just be a little bit overwhelming. For example, though, if I go to campaign, it's like, okay, well, which of these am I supposed to select? Okay, so I'll select Still Shore. But that's not actually the campaign stage that I need to be selecting. And that's not it either. Like, well, where is it? And this isn't entirely mummery. I am actually legitimately... Ah, right, quest. Quest is where you go for main story, not the journal. Which, again, is confusing. And it tells me continue after reaching level 21. Which brings me to another interesting system. And if I click on this, it just tells me here's how you can level up. But Yeah, I'm level 20 with a maxed XP bar. What's going on? So they have this thing where you have to do breakthroughs, which happens every 10 levels. I both like and dislike the system. Like, it is time gated. So I wasn't able to do this yesterday because I hadn't spent enough time at this level. But now I can. And the other thing is that all enemies are going to level up. So as you saw, those sort of run-of-the-line, run-of-the-mill bandits were level 17. The moment I break through, everything in the world is going to level up with me. And basic enemies will now be a little bit higher than me, but I'll eventually surpass them once I reach level 30. And then I'll do another breakthrough, and the cycle will repeat itself. It's an interesting way of doing level scaling, and you can't just out-level things. Things will always be a challenge. Again, I'm not sure how I necessarily feel about that. It can always be good to go back to an older area to just crush lower-level enemies, but at least make sure that things always stay interesting. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's break through. Now, in order to do breakthrough, you have to do a combat challenge. So we'll get to see a little bit more of the combat. And... game. Turn off assist. I have some pride. Oh, wow, that is a lot of enemies. Okay. And I'm actually going to have to make sure that I use all of my skills here. If you do a perfect dodge, you will leave like that little after shadow that you just saw. And so yeah, the combat is pretty smooth. Not really much that I have to say against it. It can be a little bit button mashy, but then again, I'm not claiming to be a pro gamer here. I'm sure someone with better reaction times than I would be able to use the combat system to much greater effect. Switch to my fans here for a little bit. Oh, and he's a big one. I don't want to deal with you right now. That's not the person I meant to grab. Bow also has a charge mechanic where the longer you hold it down, the greater the charge you have. And of course you have weapon effects that you can apply. There we go, he's down, you're going down next, and then your turn. I am very pleased with myself that I managed to get those 2 blocks. Oh, you're using fire? Only I'm allowed to use fire. Another quick strategic switch to fans to put down a healing aura. And I gotta be careful because I'm about ready to take exhaustion damage as well. Oops, and time to...
入为先，医者，当不得有矣。
And we're almost done. And there we go. Breakthrough achieved. I'm now level... I'm not even sure what level I'm going to be because I had an awful lot of stored experience. And yet more tutorials, which I am going to very quickly blast through. Because I've got more things to talk about. So you should have a pretty good feel for what the combat looks like in the game. So let's take a look at customization and builds, because there's actually quite a bit here. So we go back into develop and I look at my weapons. You have got all of these different styles associated with different types of weapons. So you've got rope darts, you've got umbrellas, you've got... Yeah, see, that's another umbrella. You've got large swords. You've got standard long swords. You've got twin blades. Not everything is created equal. Like, you've got 2 spears. You've got, I think, 2 different sword types for the standard long swords. You've only got 1 twin blade at the moment, but I'm sure more of those are coming. And all of these have different profiles, like Stormbreaker Spear is a tank style build, whereas the Panacea Fan is a heal style weapon. And so you've got a large amount of build diversity, and that also extends to your gear. You have gear sets, so if I had 2 pieces of the Rain Whisper set, I would gain more hit points, and if I had 4 pieces, I would increase all critical damage and healing by 10%. So I would be an even better healer if I had a full set of Rain Whisper. Same thing for Ivory Bloom. You've got 2 and 4. And you've got 8 different weapon slots that can hold gear that feed in to these sets. Now, these don't, well, other than your weapons, these don't impact your visuals. So, like, doesn't matter which of these I equip. Like, if I equip this plated armor-looking thing, and I go back out, nope. My character is still going to look like this. Your weapons will always be visible, but your character appearance doesn't change unless you go in and mess around with the appearance tab. And on that note, you've got a variety of things. You can change your hairstyle at will. You can change your clothing at will. And any accessories that you have. Like, I've got this cool little hat that I found. I don't have anything in the cloak selection yet. And of course you have accessories currently. I've got this little wine jug. Because having fish just, I don't know. Maybe I will change to the floppy fish. We'll change to the fish. So let's talk about the AI. And to do that, I'm going to go to a specific location. Because there's two main ways this game uses AI. One is in the character creator, which honestly is kind of an interesting approach. In that you can use your voice, and depending on how it reads your voice, it will create a character look for you. It's kind of silly, mostly pointless. Was it a good use of dev time? I'm not sure. I don't know how difficult it was to implement, but it's kind of interesting, kind of cute. You can also give it a picture, and it will use AI to do its best to match the picture that you showed it. My wife is Chinese, and so I gave it a picture of my wife, and it did a mostly okay task of recreating her face. Now, obviously, there's going to be limits to that. All right. So the main possible point of contention people will have with AI in this game are the AI chatbots. Every so often, you will talk to an NPC, and you will have the ability to chat about recent events or try to befriend them. And they're basically a chatbot at this point. And it tells you you are interacting with an AI bot. I will give the game kudos for this. It never hides, at least as far as I can tell, it never hides when you're dealing with AI. And so now I can talk with him. And it will do its best to try to respond to them. So it's like, yeah, dragon? Why are you asking me about dragons? That doesn't make any sense. As best as I can tell, this does not exist for any of the main quest stuff. For example, I now have the ability to do main quest options. Or even actually going back to our little lake draining thing here. Let's hop back over here because I want to avoid the main quest. Let me back over here to chat with our friend looking for treasure in the lake. Notice there's no options here for me to do AI. So anything that is storyline based is crafted. It's only miscellaneous incidental NPCs that have this kind of AI stuff to it. Which, I don't know. Personally, I don't mind that too much. It's like, if it's just side NPCs that they're trying to put into the world that makes it more lived in, I don't know. Part of me is okay with it. Part of me is not okay with it. I'm not sure, really. Because they could still hire more people to write all of these miscellaneous incidental quest dialogues, but that's also a lot of expense for very little gain. So, I don't know. You'll have to make up your own mind on that one, but it is important to know that it is here. So how exactly does the multiplayer work? Well, got this little option up here, mode switch. You can switch between solo mode and online mode. Or you also have... Nope, not there. Warrior's Journey. Or no, not Warrior's Journey. Again, the menus. I'm not doing this on purpose, I promise. Wandering Paths. There we go. It's right there. Again, there's just so many menus. It's legitimately hard to keep track of it. You do have an energy system. And so if I, say, want to do some trials, No, not trials. Editing Cat here. I got lost again in the menus. So rather than make you watch me fumble through this, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick cut. Level 16, Formless Calamity. So I can now try to join this. You can allow cross-server, so this is on PS5, and I want to say Xbox as well. And so I can now start matchmaking. And I'm going to do a heal roll and tank roll. And it will try to match me. Oh, I'm level 22. Less stored up experience than I thought I had. Now, as of this recording, matchmaking usually doesn't take too long, but I'm not sure how long this will last. At least it didn't take me too long the other day. There we go. I have no idea why I'm being matched with such high-level players for a medium difficulty trial? Okay. This is going to go very fast. Editing Cat here again. I went a little bit quiet during this fight because I've never actually done this boss before. And so I got really focused in on trying to fight and making sure that I was pulling my weight in the boss fight. But there's some things I want to talk about for the multiplayer, and this would be a good time to talk about them. There's a lot of different options when it comes to the multiplayer. You have boss fights like this. You have just the general co-op of being able to do the campaign in a co-op mode. You have fortress clearing modes where you've got a set group of basic trash enemies, and once you clear them, a mini-boss will show up. You have less competitive modes as well, where you just have a friendly competition with players, or friendly cooperation with players, not necessarily trying to fight enemies, but just like mini-games, basically. And then, past that, you have what are called the leisure modes, where the primary focus is about socialization. So, there's a lot of options that you have if you want to engage in the multiplayer. From what I can tell, the multiplayer community seems to be pretty laid back. You'll see at the end of this fight that you have the opportunity to give people thumbs up. If memory serves, I get a thumbs up from everybody in this match, and I give everybody else a thumbs up in this match. The same thing happened to the multiplayer mode that I did leading up to this video, where everybody gave me a thumbs up, and I gave everybody else a thumbs up. Now, does this extend to the voice chat and to the regular just global text chat? I don't know. Like I said, I did not engage in any of those areas. I am assuming the community is going to be decent, but just be forewarned, it is an online community, and you just never really entirely know what you're going to encounter. But it looks like this fight is just about over, so I'm going to turn it back over to the gameplay. And there we go. Fight complete. I healed 52,000 points of damage. There we go. Compliment to everybody. Space to continue. And then I can claim the reward by spending some of my energy points. And then because I need to not continue with that fight, go ahead and leave the group. So that was an example of multiplayer. There's other challenges, other events that you can do for multiplayer. I got quite a bit of rewards for doing that. So on the note of the online component, let's talk about the part that may make some people roll their eyes, and that is the microtransactions. If you don't want to hear this part, you can skip ahead to the conclusions. This is a free-to-play game, and we got to talk about it because they do a lot of the standard predatory microtransaction stuff here. Now, that said, as best I can tell, everything is cosmetic. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. Now, first and foremost, you do have quite a few options that are just expensive cosmetics, but they're just straight up cosmetics. You buy them. So if I wanted, say, this particular outfit here, I could just buy it for 2,580 pearls. Or if I want this one, I could buy it for 60 because it's currently on sale, so on and so forth. So if I just want any of these outfits, I can just flat out buy them. And they do have a reasonable range going from 680 to 2580. And they've got mount skins, of course, and they have weapon skins. I would like to think that this is a Thunderblade Fantasy reference. Please let this be a Thunderblade Fantasy reference. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look the show up. It is glorious. You should at least watch one episode. So yeah, there's a variety of just things that you can purchase. Naturally, they want you to do loot boxes, though, as they do have them. So you've got this. You've got these loot boxes. Oops, and I'm in the wrong one. Wrong screen, at least. So if I go to the draw page, because of course it's its own special page, I have the Celestial Echo, which has the sort of standard 1 draw, 10 draw thing. Not standard, though, as near as I can tell, there's no benefit to doing a 10 draw. It just takes less time. There's no bonus to doing this. And then you've got the not as fancy, but still loot box draw. Just sort of to show you how bad in general these draws are. Let's go ahead and do 10 here. Now, conveniently, it can also just let you burn all of your stuff. I don't really want to do that. I just want to do a 10 draw. And I got literal garbage. I got a scenario decoration, a level 41 buff talisman, and a couple of things to increase friendship levels. One-time use buff, a couple of those, some medicine, and the ability to send chat messages. Yeah. More often than not, you're going to get garbage. Even when I did the special, no, not the special draw, even when I did the Celestial Echo, because I did buy a set of orbs, or a set of pearls, to test the systems, I got nothing. Literally nothing. In order, you do get a guaranteed legendary with 140 draws, but I calculated it out. Let's go to the top-up page here. To do that, you would have to buy the $200 package twice. It would cost you $400 to get a guaranteed legendary. Also, notice the amounts. I have 900, I have 1800, but I need 1600 to do a 10 draw. Notice I have 408 echo beads left over. Standard predatory practices of You've got multiple currencies. You've got horrible draw rates that, now that I think about it, if there is a way to see rates, it must be on the webpage. Because I don't see any way to see rates here. It will not tell you what the draw rates are. You probably have to go to the website to find that out. Which is kind of extra scuzzy, if I'm to be perfectly honest. And then you have this system here, which, like, yeah, you see you've got this limited amount of stuff here, but every time you draw, it increases. Like the first time I did a draw, it was only 60. Now it's 180. We'll try a draw here. And I got the stash. Yay. And now it's 400. Again, I'm not entirely sure what the total cost would be if you had to draw, if you wanted to draw for everything. It's going to be expensive. And of course, because just in case you thought we were done, we're not. Naturally, we have a battle pass that has multiple tier levels, and of course has multiple levels of battle pass as well. Let's see here. If I go to shop, monthly items. No, not monthly items. And once again, I'm getting lost in menus because I'm not entirely certain where okay, here we go. So I can upgrade levels by no, that's not what I'm looking for. Still, you can upgrade levels. And quest shop, no, that's not what I want. There we go. By clicking unlock, I finally got here. The menus in this game, my goodness. Elite. So I can get an elite, which gives me these rewards, or I can get a collection, which gives me yet more rewards. It also gives me a 10 level boost. Now, is any of this make or break? That's going to have to depend on you. Me, personally, I am capable of ignoring all of this. But it is there, and it doesn't necessarily shove it in your face, but it's impossible not to notice, especially since anytime there's something to collect, especially from, like, say, your battle pass or something new in the shop, there's going to be these little red dots indicating that, yes, there is something here for you to look at. All right, let's wrap things up. Oh, hello. Where'd you come from? Let's find a nice view. Do an emote. Take a nap on a rock. Okay, final thoughts. It's a fun game. Combat is fluid and fun. A little bit button mashy, but it never claimed to be some extremely high-tech, in-depth fighter game or anything like that. Story is interesting. I've not shown any of it here. Again, just in case you wanted to pick it up for yourself. I didn't want to risk spoiling anything. But I have been enjoying the story. It is very much a Wuxia style story. Meaning you've got masters with secret agendas, hidden friends, even more hidden foes, the whole shebang. It's very much that style of storytelling. So if you didn't like, say, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you're probably not going to like this. But if you did like that movie, you'll probably like this. You can play it solo, completely fine. You can play it with co-op with friends, completely fine. And as you saw, you've got online co-op challenges that you can do with other people. I have not even scratched all of the various modes. Again, this is an impressions video, not a thorough review. This has gone on long enough. We'd be here for another hour if I tried to cover everything. Nobody wants that. So, should you download this? I would say yes. It's a fun action RPG. It's free. Don't have to spend any money on it, and I think you could get a good number of hours on this title completely free of charge. Like I said, I've got 15-ish hours logged into the game so far. Definitely plan on having more hours logged in after we finish up here. And with that, it's time to close things out. If you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up would be appreciated. And if you didn't enjoy it, well, the thumbs down button is right next to it. Have a good day.